Joining me now is filmmaker and commentator Ami Horowitz. Ami, good to catch up. Thank you so much for joining me. Look, it seems the Liberal media is dying a slow and painful death. Obviously, there's Stephen Colbert's axing, The View's on hiatus, and now the Howard Stern show on Sirius XM is set to be cancelled after 20 years. Here was part of an interview he did with Joe Biden last year, touted as one of the most cringeworthy interviews in American history. Have a look.
We're lucky to have you in the Oval Office and serving as the father of the country, because if you're a good father to your family, which you are, I know you'd be a good father to the country. And I want to thank you for providing a calming influence, an organized administration post-COVID, getting that vaccine out, getting NATO, getting us to feel comfortable, standing up to Putin.
Biden didn't even know what was going on there. And here is Donald Trump reacting to the news about the show.
You know when he went down? No, before, when he endorsed Hillary Clinton, he lost his audience. People said, give me a break.
Ami, what does this say about the state of liberal media right now in the United States?
Yeah, it says quite a bit, actually. Look, Howard Stern is a fascinating case study. Howard Stern wasn't on the air for 20 years. He was on the air for almost 50 years. Just a Sirius XM for the last 20, being paid, by the way, nearly $100 million a year. He may have been the highest paid media personality in the world. Yeah. Danica makes you wonder, you better renegotiate your contract, right? Look, it's incredible, and it says a lot. I have some insight into Howard Stern. I was a paid contributor on the show for a little bit, where I wrote and performed for him for a short period of time. Certainly knew his staff and knew him a little bit. He's a guy, it's incredible. Look, to understand how popular he was, and that's not is, but was, he was probably the most popular media figure in America for a little while. Lost a lot of relevance because he was never a happy man when he was popular with the common man. He always wanted to be accepted by the glitterati and accepted by the cool crowd, the actors and the performers, the musicians. And he traded in that regular man popularity, because he was right of center probably on most things, to go to the left. In some cases, the hard left. He pandered to the Democratic Party over and over again. And he spoke so poorly of people who were conservative, but also he made fun constantly of people who believed in God. And it turned so many people off. And you can't do that when you're driving a $100 million a year bargain with your company. Look, I love that old story when they asked Michael Jordan, hey, Michael, why don't you take up some of these social issues that we know you believe in? His answer was, Republicans buy shoes too. Well, guess what, Howard? Republicans listen to the radio and to satellite also, and you turn them all off. You lost all your relevance because of this, and here's the net result. You're out of business.
Yeah, spot on. You're out of business, and gee, $100 million a year. But, you know, it's good to see that the liberal media are finally petering out. Perhaps some common sense is finally being obtained. Now, look, Apple is investing an additional $100 billion in the United States to buy more components from local suppliers and avoid the president's threat of tariffs on iPhones. Here was Trump earlier.
Today, Apple is announcing that it will invest $600 billion, that's with a B, in the United States over the next 4 years. That's $100 billion more than they were originally going to invest.
Yeah, at the same time, Trump has announced a 100% tariff on chips and semiconductors built outside of the States. Ami, gee, this is a massive investment by Apple, huge for the US. What do you put it down to?
Look, you put it down to Trump forcing their hand for sure. But Danica, look, you might be surprised, I might take a somewhat different or more nuanced view to it, to be honest. You know, recently I was watching a new Superman movie, and I was sitting on one of those fancy new chairs where they recline back, and my phone slipped out of my pocket, unbeknownst to me. And when I reclined, the chair crushed my phone. And instead of that being what it was, an $850 mistake, it would be an $1,100 mistake or more if we're forcing manufacturers the phone manufacturers to manufacture their chips here, because costs are going to go up significantly. And by the way, it's not just all those posh, bougie users of iPhones, but actually it's going to be more problematic for people who use the mid-range phones i.e. the middle class, because while that $200 difference is only a much smaller percentage of an iPhone, it's a much larger percentage of a mid-range phone. And in the high-cost world that we live in, the high-inflation world that we live in, and make no mistake about it, inflation under Trump, because of Trump, has slowed down, but it's only slowed down. The prices have been locked in. We're just building at a slower rate from the Biden administration rise in prices. And so that's a problem. Look, there's also technical issues. The Chinese, the Taiwanese, the Asians in general have had a generation of creating supply chain efficiency, way more efficient than anything we have remotely here, because we haven't done it. It's not a spigot you can turn on and off. You can't just snap your fingers and say, let's all build the chips here in the U.S. We don't have the infrastructure for it. Like you said, it's hundreds of billions of investment. And by the way, the increase in the price I'm talking about is not the infrastructure investment. That's just that's the labor cost. Labor costs in Taiwan, which is more than China, is less than half of what it costs to do chip manufacturing here. Look, that's kind of what the problem is that we have to deal with. And also, look, we've tried building chip foundries here in the U.S. before. It hasn't worked for all the reasons I specified before. And frankly, look, I'm not saying it can't work, but you need lead time, right? Once you slap on those tariffs, the prices are going to rocket up because you can't just switch the manufacturing here. And also, by the way, last point on this, all the money with chips is in chip design, which is here, not chip manufacturing. Chip manufacturing is more of a commodity. Look, it's very technical, and we don't have that expertise, but the real profit margins in chip design, and we do that here anyways.
Yeah, look, I think you raised some really, really valid points there, and I do agree probably that Donald Trump has forced the hand of Apple on this issue. Absolutely, it totally makes sense. Now, look, Trump is set to meet in person with Russian President Vladimir Putin as soon as next week and then have a possible peace summit with Putin and the Ukrainian president. This is what Trump said.
There's a very good chance that we could be ending the round, ending the end of that road. That road was long and continues to be long, but there's a good chance that there will be a meeting very soon.
Ami, look, it seems as though there's been some progress being made here. How instrumental do you think Donald Trump has been in this process?
Absolutely vital. And I think there probably will be a peace agreement between Ukraine and Russia, and it's going to be because of Donald Trump. But make no mistake about it, Danica, Trump is not going to win a Nobel Peace Prize. How do I know it? Because he created peace with far more implacable enemies for a far longer period of time, the Israelis and the Gulf states. Yeah, nary a vote he did for the Peace Prize then, so don't think he's going to win it going forward. Look, he's built credibility with both sides, right, in the Trump style, right, that we oftentimes actually criticized. Turns out he knew better. Remember when he built credibility with Putin when he threw out Zelensky and talked tough with Zelensky, threw him out of the Oval Office. Remember that? I think that's what we're showing on the screen right now. And vice versa, built credibility with Zelensky with his very talk of Russia now going forward and the threatening he did of Russia if they didn't comply. And frankly, look, I've been critical of the tariffs. I'll tell you this, the fact that he's using tariffs to wield them against the behaviors of countries he doesn't like, that's something Russia is paying attention to for sure. It also helped that he bombed the hell out of Iran. Look, Trump has taken the adage of Theodore Roosevelt, walk softly and carry a big stick, and changed it a little bit, which is carry a big stick and stomp and yell and scream all around, okay? He doesn't walk softly ever. And I think it's actually helped. So yeah, look, the only shame in this whole thing, Danica, is that we're going to get to a peace deal, which we could have got. We knew what this was going to look like from the beginning. Okay, Russia is going to keep certain parts of the Russian part of eastern Ukraine, Donetsk and Crimea, and obviously there'll be security guarantees for Ukraine. We could have had this hundreds of thousands of deaths ago. It's a shame that it couldn't be done, certainly under Biden, and hopefully it'll happen under sooner rather than later under Trump.
Yeah, I mean, Biden couldn't do anything, let's be honest, but I do agree. Let's just hope that Donald Trump does make it happen. And as you said, all systems are certainly heading in that direction right now. We can only pray for peace, that's for sure. Now, Ami, a new poll has found Elon Musk is the most hated public figure among a list of prominent American and global personalities. That's according to a Gallup survey of Americans on their views of 14 powerful public figures. So as you can see there, Elon Musk is the #1 hated, followed by Israeli PM Benjamin Netanyahu, Marco Rubio, and then Donald Trump. What do you make of this, Ami? Elon Musk, why?
Look, it makes a little bit of sense only because clearly he's hated by the entire left, and he's also hated on the hard right MAGA base as well, right? So, yeah, those numbers kind of make sense. But look, it doesn't make sense because he really might be one of the most accomplished human beings who have ever lived on this planet. Danica, he didn't just create 3 businesses. He created 3 industries, and not just any industry: electronic payment, electric cars, private space travel. Those are the industries that he built. It's unbelievable. Look, I think what's even more interesting in those numbers was that, and scary, was that the number 3 most popular was Bernie Sanders at nearly 50%, right? Bernie Sanders, and what that shows me is this, is that he has the Bernie Sanders philosophy, the radicalism of Comrade Bernie. Because of that number, that's the entire Democratic base. The entire Democratic base looks upon him favorably because they like his philosophy. And by the way, it's not enough to make up that 50% of the Democratic base. That also means he's got some of these hard right, horseshoe theory right-wingers who have moved to the left because of the horseshoe theory of politics. He's got some of them also. Also, I think was interesting was that Joe Biden was 2% ahead of Donald Trump. I guess that makes sense because we always speak fondly of the nearly departed.
Yeah, that is a very good point. And you're right. I mean, Elon Musk is a self-made billionaire. Good on him, I say. I think people have got a problem. Maybe they're just a bit jealous as well. Now, look, the race for New York City mayor, it's heating up again. Former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who's running as an independent, has called out socialist candidate Zoran Mandani for owning property in Uganda, despite the country's anti-LGBT policies. I mean, does he have a point here?
Yeah, look, not the biggest Cuomo fan in the world. I know that's not shocking, but he's certainly better than Mandani. I like this move, right? He turned the wokeness of Mandani right around on him, using it as a weaponizing against Mandani. Particularly, I liked his BDS phrasing, turning his anti-Israel, anti-Semitic words onto himself as well. But here's the problem, is that it's just falling on deaf ears because this is nothing new, right? The woke... I mean, look no farther than the left's focus and support of Hamas, in specific, and frankly, the Palestinians in general. They've all been, I don't know what you call anti-LGBTQ. They throw them off of roofs. So, yeah, that's pretty anti-LGBTQ. But we've been pushing that line forever against the woke, and that hasn't made a difference. They still support the Palestinians because ultimately, what they are most loyal not to their supposed beliefs of love for one another and openness for one another, but rather their belief in straight up equality and Marxism. So they support the Palestinians because they see them as the oppressor-oppressed matrix. That's really the bigger problem there.
Yeah,
I don't think it's gonna have much of an effect.
No, look, fair enough, but yeah, it's heating up, isn't it? Now, look, Ami, I absolutely love this next story. Dean Cain, who starred as the Man of Steel in the series Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman back in the 80s, has announced that he's joining ICE to support the illegal immigration crackdown. Here's his announcement.
For those who don't know, I am a sworn law enforcement officer, as well as being a filmmaker. I felt it was important to join with our first responders to help secure the safety of all Americans, not just talk about it. So I joined up.
Ami, a little bit of life imitating art.
Oh, look at that hair. That Dean Cain is still rocking. Unbelievable. That's the real Superman that he's, right? Look, Dean Cain's not just a great actor. He's a great guy. Wonderful dude. This is not surprising at all. Love the guy. Yeah, Dean Cain's all about truth, justice, and the American way. And by the way, the new Supermans have become so woke that they've dropped the American way, but not Dean Cain.
Not Dean Cain. He is American all the way. We love to see it. Ami Horowitz, nice to catch up. Thanks so much for joining me on the show.